Just killing time.
Joe the Shirt is once again off the cuff. Welcome back, everybody. It's so good to be back, and back so quickly. Last time I was on was Friday. It's only Sunday, so you haven't had too much of a chance to miss me. If you're listening right now, well, then odds are you don't really care for football. Or you're DVRing something, or we're contemplating suicide and decided to check your Facebook messages first, maybe some Spreaker, and then it was like, oh, Joe's on. Okay. But welcome back, nonetheless. I'm glad you're listening. Today's music is brought to you by Trenchtown, and that was their song, Killing Time. I'm here with my girlfriend. She's hanging out with me today. And I was thinking to myself, Trenchtown, that particular song sounded like Fall Out Boy and Ricky Martin had a baby. You know, that's what it sounded like to me. But what do I know about music? Next to nothing. Before I go on, before I forget, let's do celebrity birthdays really, really quick here, because I know that's what you all really care about. That's why you all listen in, because none of you will go on to celebrity.com, celebritybirthday.com, and find out for yourselves. You want to hear it from another human being. Let's do yesterday's birthdays, actually. There's not a whole lot here, actually. If you were born October 19th, you share a birthday with Michael Gambon, who's 73 years old. Anybody? Michael Gambon? Anybody? Anybody? You might know him as Professor Dumbledore from the Harry Potter movies. Trey Parker of South Park fame turned 44 yesterday, as did Evander Real Deal Holyfield. He turned 51 years old. John Lithgow is 68 and still working, if you've been watching Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. Chris Kattan is 43 of SNL fame, and Jon Favreau turned 47. Remember John when he was still thin and muscular from Swingers? Now he's a big fat fuck. But he's a rich, powerful, famous big fat fuck. Okay? So if you've seen any action movies lately, he was probably involved in some way or another. Now today being October 20th, not too many birthdays, like 4. That's it. That's all I got here. Keith Hernandez turned 59 today, of the MLB fame, the Mets. Tom Petty turned 62. Okay. Viggo Mortensen, looking good still at 54. And the one and only Snoop Dogg is 41 years old. I actually thought he was a little older than that. Not because he looks older, but because he's just been in this rap game for so long. You just thought maybe he'd be like 50. I don't know. That's me. So what is going on out there? Well, let's start out with a little local news. This is big stuff here. From Friday. Friday marked the longest time that Los Angeles has gone without a homicide since the year 2010. 9 days. That's right. A whole 9 days. Now, there's a quote here from the Los Angeles Police Department. Quote, "If you would have told me 20 years ago that we would go 9 days without a homicide, I would have never believed it," said Commander Andy Smith. Now, since the year 2000, the longest the city has gone without a slaying was 10 days, from August 30th through September 10th, 2010, to September 8th, 2010, according to figures compiled by the department. Wow. 9 days. That's what we have to be proud of. That nobody... And my girlfriend did point this out. Nobody got killed that we know of. Okay? No homicides that have been reported, have been checked on. It could be like, somebody's out there getting murdered right now, and we just don't know about it yet.
There's a dead body somewhere in the pit.
Exactly. There's somebody out there. Now, you want to talk about dead bodies. I want to talk about dead bodies a little bit. A woman in San Francisco, Lynn Spalding. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it was all over the papers, all over the news. She got checked into a hospital and then disappeared and was found dead 17 days later. What's that?
In a stairwell?
In a stairwell, yeah, 17 days later. By the way, do you know what she went in for? UTI. She went in because of a urinary tract infection, up and disappeared, and was found 17 days later in a stairwell, dead. Her body was so decomposed, so fucked up, they had to run a DNA test to confirm who the hell she was. All right? Now, let me give you some specifics here. Let's see. Lynn Spalding. Let's see. She disappeared from her San Francisco hospital room, found 17 days later. Officials identified the body found Tuesday as that of Lynn Spalding, 57 years old, a mother of two, who had been admitted for complications from a urinary tract infection on September 19th and then disappeared 2 days later. An engineering staff member doing a routine check discovered her remains at 10 a.m. Wait, they hadn't done a routine check 17 days before that? I'd be suing my janitorial staff. They're all fired as far as I'm fucking concerned. You went 17 days and you didn't clean the stairwell. Is that what you're telling me?
In a hospital.
In a hospital, exactly. Now the door at the now here's another one. The door to the exit had an alarm that was locked from the outside. So for her to get in through there from that direction from where she would have come from, she should have set off the alarm. But she didn't. Let's see. According to this, her family wants to know the timing and number of previous hospital searches and whether or not their cameras in the hospital were operating. So far, nothing's come forward on that. The hospital said that its staff members checked on Spalding at 10:15 a.m. on Saturday. She disappeared and found her bed empty 15 minutes later. The hospital said staff members immediately began to search for her, notified her family, and asked the sheriff's department for help. Spalding was divorced, lived in the city with her 23-year-old daughter. She also had a son, 19 years old, living with his father. She worked for many years in the hospital industry.
Somebody killed her.
That's exactly my thought. I think somebody killed her. She's working in the hospital industry for many years. I think she pissed somebody off. They found out that she was in the hospital, and they offed her. Her cell phone was found on a chair next to her hospital bed. Let's see. Perry said that he gathered from the conversation with the medical examiner that the body had been in poor condition, and that's why DNA testing was needed to determine identification. He said there's no mention of possible foul play. As a matter of fact, on a little update on that, I did find out for a fact that they are confirming that there was no foul play involved. Not by the police. Hospital is. Now, I gotta believe that somebody offed her. Now, they say that, she was on drugs for pain, and she did weigh a whole 105 pounds soaking wet. So there's a good chance that any type of drugs would have affected her more than, say, me. You give me horse tranquilizers, I'll probably be okay. But, you give a 105-pound woman, 57-year-old woman, certain drugs, there's a good chance she's going to get a little loopy. But not so loopy, in my opinion, that a California woman is going to leave her cell phone anywhere. So, yeah, I think somebody offed her. I think somebody in the hospital business found out where she was and did something. Because, like I said, she couldn't have gotten through that door without setting off the alarm. And I'm supposed to believe that for 17 days, she was on this stairwell that nobody used. No janitorial services came by. She was just there. Nobody smelled anything. 17, and so decomposed that they had to run a DNA test on her. Just goes to show you, hospitals and exercise, bad for you. I know, nobody said anything about exercise, but I felt like saying it anyway. Sticking with health issues, we're going to go with that. I don't know if you've ever spent any time in an ICU, also known as an intensive care unit in a hospital. Now, these are places where things have happened that are so bad that they really need to keep an eye on you, a very sharp eye on you, where they're checking on you constantly. They've got you monitored. They want to know what's going on with you. Now, according to a recent study, 2/3 of patients sick enough to land in a hospital intensive care unit come away from the experience with a substantial amount of mental deficits. All right? Physicians have found that 3 months after leaving the hospital, 4 in 10 patients continue to have cognitive problems on par with those seen in cases of moderate traumatic brain injury. So spending time in ICU is a lot like somebody hitting you in the head. That's with a blunt object to the point where your brain bounces around in your skull and causes enough damage so that you have trouble, say, doing addition or tying your shoes. More than a quarter experience a decline in mental function akin to that seen in patients with mild Alzheimer's. So this is the place where you go to feel better. This is the place where you go where things are so fucked up that they put you there to make sure that you get better. And while they're repairing you physically, they are fucking you up mentally. According to this, for 58% of ICU patients, those intellectual deficits were still there a year after being released from the hospital. So up to a year for almost 60% of the people that go to an ICU unit, a year later, they still don't know which is left and which is their right shoe. All right? I know, I'm exaggerating to make a point here. Latest research published on Wednesdays in the New England Journal of Medicine found that the sudden decline in mental function was likely to affect young patients as well as older patients. So your age doesn't make a difference. You could be in your 70s, you could be 17. You go to ICU, a year later, you're still fucked up. Only one factor appeared to predict which patients would sustain mental deficits after an ICU stay: the length of time the patient experienced delirium. Okay? Now, a lot of people are confused as to what delirium really means. When people use the term delirious in a very, laissez-faire kind of way. They just toss it around and not really think about it. But delirium really means that your mental functions are so far gone, so fucked up. Your brain cells are dying at a rate that you can't even begin to imagine. It makes drinking look like bullshit. Your brain is fired off so much that it's actually in the process of dying. Now, let's see. The study tracked for a year 821 patients who landed in the ICU from a wide range of circumstances. Some were admitted after surgery, others had suffered a stroke or a sudden turn in ongoing illness. Although suspicion has long fallen on the widespread use of powerful painkillers and sedatives in the ICU, they found few clear links between a patient's ICU medications and the patient's subsequent cognitive health. So in other words, all those drugs that people get worried about that they get while they're in ICU, thinking that that's what's fucking them up afterwards, no, not so much. Even though they found very, very small connections between such drugs as Valium and your cognitive performances after an ICU. But it's very small to the point where they really don't consider it. It's really how much time were you in a state of delirium. Now, I don't have the exact medical terminology for delirium right here, but it's not what most of you think out there. Okay, we're talking about, imagine somebody, have you ever seen somebody that was really ODing on drugs or really close to that point of ODing on drugs where you would talk to them, they couldn't understand a word you were saying, they couldn't recite the ABCs, and I mean just A, B, and C, not the whole thing, not the whole alphabet. That's what we're talking about delirium here. We're talking about a person whose brain is literally on the brink of dying. So apparently that is the biggest link between ICU and your cognitive functions after the ICU. Once again, hospitals are bad for you. My girlfriend can confirm this. She's had family in the hospital before, and it always seemed as if they went in to get better and they came out worse. Or if they came out at all. I didn't want to mention that without your permission, babe. In any case, we are going to take a break now. Look at that. Look at that. Joe the Shirt's off the cuff, making death in hospitals fun for everybody. In any case, we're going to take a little break here. Here's more music for you from Trenchtown. It's called Guess You'll Never Know. Joe the Shirt is back. Welcome back, everybody. Now, I can sing as much as I want. Poorly, but I will sing as much as I want. During the break, my girlfriend and I were talking a little bit about hospitals, and she's also convinced that this Lynn Spalding was killed for something or another. Because my girlfriend did spend time in the hospital a couple of years ago, and she was on some pretty hefty drugs out there. And she did wander the hallways at night like something out of The Walking Dead. And, just 2 or 3 in the morning, you got nothing else to do. You're awake. And by the way, this was over at Cedar Sinai. Security is deplorable. Okay? I walked in and out of that place any time of day or night easily. I could have just gone in there, murdered her, walked right out. Nobody would have noticed a damn thing. I'd come in the next morning and go, "Oh my God, what happened?" But I'm making a point here. It's really easy in a hospital for anybody just to walk in, unless you got like that, that police guard, and even then, you've seen the movies. Okay, now, I'm thinking of starting a new segment. But you know what? I'll talk about that one later. Right now, I buried the lead long enough. We're talking about modern-day slavery, more than you think. A lot of people are under the misconception that slavery is over. You could not be more wrong. Okay, it's one of the uglier things in human history. I've talked about slavery many times, and I've talked about. I make fun of American slavery because, it's just all chuckles for me. But the joke I've always made is that Americans fucked up slavery. Because slavery used to not be the worst thing in the world. The idea of slavery has been around as long as modern human beings have been around. We're talking about Egypt, okay, Mesopotamia. We're talking about way back when. But in the original terms of slavery was more like paying off a debt. Okay? It's like, okay, I want to marry your daughter, so I'm going to be your slave, quote unquote, for 7 years. And then at the end of the 7 years, that is what I'm paying to be able to, the privilege of marrying your daughter. It was a way of getting to know a potential husband. It was a way of, showing that you were really dedicated to this family concept, Another one was, I need to buy a cow So I will indenture myself to you. And then after a certain amount of time, you got let go. And you got your cow. That's the way it worked. Yes, I just compared wives and cows. I just realized I just did that. Didn't mean to. Didn't mean to, at least not, on a cognizant level, but I did it. And but then, of course, slavery became it became sort of a caste system way of thinking. You are less than I am, thus this is what you do, or you owe a debt and that you have to pay off, and then now we're going to charge interest on that debt so that you can never pay it off, and then we'll pass that on to your kids, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And we like to think that slavery doesn't exist, but it does. According to Walk Free, it's a group that keeps track of slavery in the world. There's a lot more slavery out there than you might like to think. Australia's Walk Free Foundation suggests that in the 162 nations that were surveyed, they estimate there are roughly 29.8 million modern-day slaves. And that the bondage exists in most countries, actually, including this one, ours, the United States, Canada, Japan, and Western European nations. Now, slavery takes on a lot of names. It's not just, say, slavery, you're a slave. It could be sex trafficking. It could be, servants. It could be a debt that you owe for a long ass time. A classic example is India. India has 1.2 billion people. Of that population, they estimate that 13.9 million people are in fact slaves. Now, they don't call them slaves, they call them domestic servants. And what typically happens is an agency comes to a young girl's home, say 10 years old, and tells the family, hey, I got a great deal for your kid here. There's a family that's looking for domestic help, cooking, cleaning, maybe nannying kind of thing. She works 8-10 hours a day, and she makes X amount of money. I take a small percentage of that for finding her and hooking up with the family, and then boom, 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 there you go. All right. Sounds like a good deal. But then what happens is they take the girl, they put her on a train, they sell her to somebody else, and then the agency, quote unquote, then pretty much gets a fee from a rich family that they pay to the agency, and then the family gets to do whatever the fuck they want with this kid for as little as $33 a month. Now, the minimum wage for this type of deal is actually $125 a month. All right? But these families, we're talking about families that are, which by our standards would be considered millionaires, don't feel like paying $125 a month, would rather pay $33 a month to an agency. The family of the girl never sees a dime. The girl never sees a dime. And what they typically do is find girls that don't speak Hindi. India has about 200 languages. So they find girls that don't speak Hindi, sell them to a family that's rich enough that does speak Hindi, cut her off from her family, don't allow any communication whatsoever, make sure that she has no idea where she really is, and then she just sucks up her fate. Typically, these girls will be worked 18 hours a day. They will be beaten if something goes wrong, and are routinely sexually abused. All right. That's one type of slavery in India. Now, you want to go for another one in India? This one still exists. This is one where you have a guy, let's say, he wants to buy a farm so he can raise crops, for his family. So he borrows money from a guy at the local kiln where they make bricks. And he borrows money from him, and the idea is that he's going to work off his debt to the guy. So the guy that owns the kiln pays him money. He comes in and works. Then he charges him interest. The guy has kids. He's got more mouths to feed, so he needs to work more. And then the debt is then passed on to the children. It never actually gets paid off. And this goes on literally for generations. Okay? And what happens is you become indoctrinated into this way of thinking, where the kid is born and he's just told by his dad, by the way, when you grow up, you're not going to school, you're not getting an education, you're not leaving the country, you're not going to get a great job, you're going to go work at the kiln with me for the debt that your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather got for us. And that's what they're told, and that's the way it works. And then what they do also is that they make sure that the kids never become educated. They don't go to school. They don't learn to read and write. They don't learn that they actually legally have options. They don't actually have to do this, but they're convinced that they do. And they continue to do so. Now, that differs in what they term slavery in the United States, which for the most part is actually sex trafficking. Girls run away from home as young as 10, 11 years old, sometimes even younger. Get on a bus, run away, whatever, walk away. They're picked up by some nasty little hood on the street, told that they'll be taken care of. I'll feed you. I'll put a roof over your head. Just every once in a while, you're going to get fucked by a complete stranger. He's going to give you money. You're going to give it all to me. And if you give me any lip, I'll cut you. It's a form of slavery, where you are basically being forced to do what somebody else wants you to do without any compensation whatsoever. And if in any way you resist, you face corporal punishment. I'll beat you. I'll cut you. I'll scar you. I'll burn you. I'll throw acid on you. These are all very common pimp ways of controlling their hoes. Now, let's go through some statistics, shall we? Let's see. India has the largest number of slaves at 13.9 million, which is 4 times more than that of the number 2 country, which is China, with 2.9 million. Pakistan ranked in third with 2.1 million. Now, Mauritania and Haiti actually had the highest percentage of slaves per populace, with 4 and 2% respectively. Now, Mauritania, this is one of the ones. It's basically indentured servitude, like the example I cited a little while ago, where you were just born into debt. Okay? And that's 4% of the population. Let's think about that for a second. You think maybe 4% is not a lot. Try to imagine 4% of the United States being slaves. We're talking about a country of, let's say, almost 350 million people now. So 10% is 35 million. So roughly 4% of the population would be 16 million people in slavery. That's what we're talking about. That's how big of a percentage we're talking. It doesn't sound like a lot until you get the actual numbers. Now, Mauritania is a much, much smaller country, but when you think about it per capita, 4% is huge. Let's see. According to the article here, whether it's called human trafficking, forced labor, slavery, or slavery-like practices, victims of modern slavery have their freedoms denied and are used and controlled and exploited by another person for profit, sex, or the thrill of domination. Slavery. That's what it is. Let's see here. In terms of percentage, like we said here, slavery, India is the 4th on the walk free list. 4th. I mean, you think about that. You have, that's just amazing to me. 4th on the list. Which ranks, one non-governmental organization has estimated that as much as 20% of Mauritania is actually in indentured servitude, slavery. Walk Free believes that that's a little too high, but estimates it at 4%. According to them, here's a quote from Walk Free. Indoctrination to ensure people in slavery accept their situation of ownership is a key feature of slavery in Mauritania. Without access to education or alternative means of subsistence, many believe it is God's wish for them to be slaves. Now, at the other extreme of this spectrum, we have Iceland, which has an estimated 100 slaves total for the population of 320,000, as compared to the United States, which ranks 134th in the world when it comes to slaves, with 60,000 people in bondage. These are pretty staggering numbers, in my opinion. You know what? Percentage-wise, 30 million people in slavery around the world isn't shit. It really isn't. I mean, there's roughly 7 billion people on the planet? 30 million isn't shit. It's not even a drop in the bucket. It's by most estimates, it's not even worth noticing numbers-wise. But when you talk about 30 million people, we're talking about almost the entire populations of most European countries. Hell, Canada only has about 50 million people total. All right? So imagine 70% of Canada enslaved. That's the type of numbers I'm talking about here. Okay, you know what? I'm obviously not going to solve the problem today with this dumb little ass show that I'm doing. But I do want you guys out there to know that it does still exist. It is out there. And also, another form of slavery is, being forced into military groups. Go to Somalia, go to Iran, go to Iraq, Uganda. We're talking about 9-year-olds with Uzis. Do you think they volunteered? I think the official term for that is impression. Being impressed into service is what it's called. Also known as being shanghaied if you happen to be a pirate or something, if you're on the high seas. You are forced into service. It's called impressed into service. Now, there's a term I never thought I was ever going to use again after high school. But I did. Thank you, Mrs. Horowitz. In any case, it's time for a break with more Trenchtown. I'm Joe the Shirt. I'm off the cuff. And here's Trenchtown's Memento Mori.
Well, I could keep you for myself, but I would give you no one else. Ooh. Then out the door, on the floor, find a need, beg and see. We'll take the first one, it's on me. Now take a sweat and hit the shower. Every hour on the hour. Oh, take a chance, hypno trance. Anytime, blow my mind. Out the door, on the floor. Call a call, be a boss, and also guarantor. Answer. Oh, I'm the freak of history. With the fame of memory. Duck in shame, be the blame. Take the hit, deal with it. Feel report, guarantor. Anytime, blow my mind. Anytime, anytime. Answer, momentary. Take a drink from me. I'm the absentee. Answer, save a breath for you. You and your recluse. Tightening the old pouring new. And everyone has got the time. Just to wasting time.
Joe the Shirt is once again off the cuff. And I'm back. Welcome back, everybody. I know. There's a reason I bury the lead most of the time, because most of the time the lead tends to be the heaviest part of the show. If I start out with that, it kind of makes the rest of the show a bummer. If I end with that, all you remember is that the show was a bummer. So that's why I put it right there in the middle. All right. Oh my God. Okay. Now, I was talking about starting a new segment on the show, and I think I might just call it, What the Fuck is Going On in Mexico? Because I love Mexico. My girlfriend loves Mexico. We love going to Mexico, okay? We go for vacation as much as we can, and except for this last trip, we've always had a great time. By the way, if you guys hear any weird noises in the background, that'll be my girlfriend. She's putting together some late dinner for us, so don't panic, all right? But anyway, what the fuck is going on in Mexico? All right. Now, as everybody knows, drug cartels are a big problem in Mexico. The big problem here. But here, at least, for the most part, the big drug cartels have learned to keep it on the quieter side. I mean, really, when was the last time you heard about the American mob really doing something horrible? You know, whether it be the Italians or the Russians or the Asians. Okay, yeah, the mobs are there. They do fucked up, violent shit, but they keep it very contained. You know, they try to keep it business. They try not to wipe out, say, a neighborhood most of the time. The Mexican cartels still haven't gotten to that point yet where they understand that it's a business. You take out your top rival, not say the block he lives on. You know, they haven't figured that one out yet. Now, here's one for you. Has anybody ever heard of Francisco Rafael Arellano Felix? No? Okay. Well, for the longest time, he was the biggest drug dealer in Mexico. He was the biggest drug trafficker in Mexico. He controlled the lion's share of any drugs that cross between the borders of the United States and Mexico. If you wanted to get drugs across the border, you talk to this guy. You wanted to get, say, people that wanted to just cross over, start a new life in the United States. You know what? As far as he's concerned, you're crossing his border. You got to talk to this guy. This guy was the oldest of 7 brothers, and he just ran shit in Tijuana. All right? I mean, he just dominated it. Now, he was caught, and he served time in a Mexican prison in the 1990s for drugs and weapons crimes, and was arrested after the slaying by traffickers of Roman Catholic Cardinal Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo. Apparently, you can do a lot of stuff, but, you know, killing Catholic priests and cardinals is still a big no-no in Mexico. You know, they still don't like that. Then again, Catholic priests in Mexico are also not known for molesting their parishioners. Here in the U.S., that's just a free-for-all. You can go ahead. You know, if you're a Catholic priest, you know, go nuts. Now, Francisco Rafael Arellano Felix was killed on Friday in Baja California in the city of Cabo San Lucas while attending a party at a hotel and resort. It was a kids' party. It was fun. It was cheery. It was great. You know, there was cake and there was balloons and a pony and clowns, and then the clowns brought out automatic weapons and splattered Francisco Rafael Arellano Felix all over the walls. That's right. Gunmen dressed as clowns burst into a children's party and shot to death Francisco Rafael Arellano Felix.
Okay, it's a little funny. It's not that funny.
No, it's really fucking funny as far as I'm concerned. There's an old joke about, you know, how you go to prison and people are like, well, what are you in for? I killed a guy. Well, what are you in for? I raped 3 women. It's like, what are you in for? Jaywalking. You know, I would like to see this guy going up to the pearly gates, going to heaven and going, it's like, so how did you die? A car accident. How did you die? I had a heart attack. How did you die? I was shot to death by clowns.
Okay, that's funny.
I told you. That's my girlfriend with the commentary in the background. Okay, we got time for one more story. Actually, I got 2 stories. Oh my God, I don't know which one I want to do. Let's do this one first. Okay. Now, in New York, there were a couple of girls, teenage girls, 17 years old, that were shopping at, I believe, what's the name of that place where they sell lingerie?
Victoria's Secret?
Yes, exactly. They were shopping at Victoria's Secret. Very good, baby. They were shopping at Victoria's Secret, and they were shoplifting at Victoria's Secret. Okay? Security guard noticed the girls, decided to stop them, and inspect their bags. Sure enough, they were stealing stuff from the store, and they were arrested on charges. Let's see, on petty larceny. Now, you're probably wondering, why do we care? Well, it's because within the bag, they also found a dead baby. The security guard, while inspecting the girls' bags, noticed a very, very foul stench coming from inside the bag and found a newborn dead baby in one of the girls' bags. He called the police. But the charge so far is just petty larceny. Let's go through this really quickly here. Preliminary reports from detectives were that the baby was born alive and possibly had been asphyxiated. The case began Thursday when a security guard stopped Tiana Rodriguez and Frances Esteves, both 17, to examine their bags at a Victoria's Secret store in Midtown Manhattan. The guard found the dead baby in a bag Rodriguez was carrying. Rodriguez told detectives she was carrying the remains because she delivered the baby a day earlier and didn't know what to do with it. Both girls were arrested on petty larceny. Rodriguez was taken to a hospital and remained there. A woman who answered the phone at a possible home phone number for her said that she knew nothing about the matter. A woman who said she was Estevez's mother said she hadn't spoken with her daughter since her arrest and hung up. Now, these girls are going to be most likely treated as adults because according to the legal system in New York, older teens are treated as adults after the ages of 16. Criminal courts, in the criminal court, suspects between 7 and 15 are still maybe charged as juveniles. One of Rodriguez's neighbors, Zami Ford, told the Daily News she was unaware of the teen's pregnancy. I love that. I love it when that happens. When somebody's pregnant and you just don't know. Nobody notices weight gain. Nobody notices that she's not buying tampons anymore. Nobody notices anything. And then she has a baby and possibly kills it herself. Now, my guess is she's claiming that the baby was born dead. My question is, why was she carrying it around with her? Now, no, I don't think she was nuts, actually, baby. I think that a lot of times when you commit a crime, one of the first things that people do is get rid of the weapon they used, the evidence. Unfortunately, when the cops come looking for it, a lot of times they will find it because most people really do not know how to dispose of evidence. You got a baby. That's tough to just make disappear. Unless, no, I think she should have used the fact that nobody knew she was pregnant to really, okay, nobody knows I'm pregnant. I live. I don't know where she lives. But she was caught in Manhattan. But I'm guessing, she probably lives closer to Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx. But seriously though, before you go shoplifting, get rid of the baby. I think that's just smart. Shoplifting. Before you go shoplifting, okay. I get caught, petty larceny at worst. Let me go, make a break for it, make a run for it. They catch you with a baby, you go to jail. Could you imagine if there was a man walking around? He's got his book bag with him, his knapsack with him, whatever, just hanging around. Gets stopped by security. They open up his bag. Well, you got a dead baby in there. You're going to jail for stealing those thongs. Now, one of Rodriguez's neighbor, again, Zami Ford, told the Daily News that she was unaware of the teen's pregnancy and was stunned by the allegations. According to her, quote, "She's a good girl. I can't believe she would do that." What is she referring to exactly? That she gave birth to a baby, killed it, and carried it around with her while she was shoplifting Victoria's Secret? Or that she was having premarital sex? See, it's unclear to me what it is that this person is shocked by. You like that story, babe?
Love it.
That's a good one, huh? I got another good one here, but we are out of time. But you know what? I got one more quick story that I can do. All right. Up until recently, scientists believed that the longest a bullfrog could jump was 4.2 feet. But according to the Guinness Book of World Records, it's actually 7.15 feet. Why? They discovered because when the frogs are scared, they jump farther. Scientists spent time and money to go to a frog jumping contest to find out why is it the Guinness Book of World Records says they can jump almost twice as much as what our lab says they can. Well, because they didn't think they were going to die in the lab. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for listening, and here's more Trenchtown, their song Unpaid Holiday. I'm Joe the Shirt, and I've been off the cuff.